Hi, and welcome to In the Studio. Redbeard here, bringing you the stories behind the greatest rock albums in history.
You're welcome. Guitar up. 1, 2, 3.
Today in the studio, it's the 25th anniversary of the Pink Floyd album Animals, the all-important musical missing link to two of the most popular albums ever.
I don't recall that the Animals tour was any different, really, in the way it was done to the Dark Side of the Moon or the Wish You Were Here tours, but it was a bit longer. We toured fairly consistently for 6 months.
A decision was made to take this very artistic photograph of a large pig flying over Battersea Power Station. And so the large pig was built and inflated and taken down to Battersea. And there was a crew of riggers and inflators and everything else. And there was also a highly paid marksman whose job was to deflate the pig with a well-placed shot in the event of it escaping. So the next morning, everyone reported for work. With the exception of the marksman. Anyway, by the time the marksman got there, the pig was at 20,000 feet and heading for Dover.
Hello, this is David Gilmour of Pink Floyd.
And I'm Nick Mason, and we're in the studio
With Redbeard.
Pink Floyd's Animals album arrived at my radio station in February 1977. I took it home and I played it with great anticipation. I mean, after all, the two Pink Floyd predecessors, Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here, were on their way to selling 29 million and 6 million copies respectively. Animals, though, was cynical. It was agitated. It was downright pithy. It is Roger Waters' vented emotion frozen in time, without the luxury then of the follow-up, The Wall's ability to explore Waters' childhood past for context or his future for resolution. Listening to Animals then was the moral equivalent of suddenly coming upon a car crash and being immediately aware that serious injury had somehow been inflicted. The listener desperately wants to call for help, but who are we to notify? The original sound of the Animals album was as dark and murky as Roger Waters' vision, and I must confess the combination of only 3 awkwardly long songs with that thick bass-heavy sonic presentation kept Animals off of American rock radio, pretty much. So with the remastering for the Pink Floyd box set in 1992, Animals is now like finding a pristine pearl perfectly preserved in the muddy bottom of the stream of time. With the close miking technique of the musical instruments so popular back then, the resultant sound of Pink Floyd's Animals can be startling. With hindsight, it's clear that Animals and its subsequent tour was the linchpin between the introspection of Dark Side of the Moon, the melancholy of Wish You Were Here, and the creeping, numbing isolation brought on by, of all things, superstar success. Here's Roger Waters.
And that idea arose specifically out of the Animals tour. Because we were playing in stadiums almost exclusively for the first time, and it became clear to me after doing one or two, from the conversation backstage and from the response in front of the stage and for the things that happened afterwards and from the injuries and the this and the that and the general vibe I got, that this was no longer musicians writing and performing songs, and well, it was, but that was no longer important. What had become important was the gross. It really upset me over a period. We were, playing stadiums for 6 or 7 weeks, and it really started to get to me. And the last one we did was in Montreal in the Olympic Stadium. 90,000 people stretching forever into the distance, chain link fencing in front of the stage, kids on apparently on some kind of Pavlovian dog trip of screaming their heads off from the moment that we appeared on stage till the moment we left. Nobody listening, well, not nobody, I'm sure there were a lot of people in the audience who were trying to listen. Very difficult for an audience to pay attention to what's going on. And what was important, and I've been to lots of stadium shows since, and with the exception, I think, of Live Aid, they're all the same. What's important, is the demagogy, is the worship of the very rich people. Rich in terms of having earned a lot of money, but also maybe rich in terms of the way the audience perceives how it must be to have written such and such a song, or to be that popular, or whatever. It's the worship of idols from afar, and I find it distressing.
That's the song Sheep from Pink Floyd's Animals. When we come back to this musical zoo, I'll be joined by Pink Floyd's David Gilmour and Nick Mason for the 25th anniversary of Animals in the studio.
Like Shakespeare, we ask the question, what's in a name? Ours is pretty blah. We're Geico, not to be confused with Gecko, a small tree lizard. And no, Geico doesn't have a sister company named Girl Co. So, in the absence of a perfect name, focus group tested for hipness, we offer car insurance at a fair price. In 15 minutes, you could save 15%. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Our name may not be cool, but saving money always is. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
I may be pregnant, but my period's days away.
Tuesday,
Wednesday,
maybe,
Thursday,
maybe.
Friday.
With First Response Early Result Pregnancy Test, she could have results up to 4 days sooner. Because based on product instructions, only First Response can be used 4 days sooner than any other at-home pregnancy test.
I want to know now.
First Response Early Result Pregnancy Test. Results 4 days sooner.
See doctor as recommended. 52% get results 4 days sooner. 86% 2 days sooner. Use as directed.
Red, green, a 5-day Caribbean cruise.
These are just a few of the things you may now find inside a box of Crayola products.
A Crayola-sponsored art day for your class. A free birthday party.
Just play the Crayola Imagine It game, and you may win a family vacation to the Caribbean, or many other great prizes like
a year's supply of Crayola products.
And more.
See specially marked boxes of Crayola products or store displays for complete details. No purchase necessary. Game open to legal U.S. residents and ends 3/30/103 or while supplies last.
On the eve of the Second World War, Germany's Max Schmeling and America's Joe Louis waged battle. Their countries demanded heroes. They just wanted to be champions.
I'm not a Nazi. I'm just a fighter.
You can't win by decision tonight.
You could knock them out.
Stars Pictures is proud to present an original motion picture event, Joe and Max. Premieres March 9th during the Stars Free Preview Weekend.
Welcome back in the studio with Redbeard. This is David Gilmour of Pink Floyd.
I'm Redbeard. This week focusing on a pivotal album in Pink Floyd's illustrious legacy called Animals. Earlier, Roger Waters told us of the increasing angst he felt during the Animals tour. Pink Floyd guitarist, singer, songwriter David Gilmour does not recall the tour being particularly eventful.
The stadium tours started in 1973 when Dark Side of the Moon was out. We were doing stadiums immediately as soon as sort of Money got up into the top 10, and it was a major change for us because the audiences just made so much more noise. I mean, we weren't ever exclusively doing stadiums. We would be doing some cities. We would be doing the arenas and multiple nights in arenas in the big cities as well as stadiums. It would be sort of balanced out between the two. But it was quite a shock to the system to be confronted with people down the front all screaming to hear us play Money, when our sort of slightly more reverential audiences, you might say, were sitting in absolute silence waiting to hear the next pin being dropped very, very subtly and delicately from Nick's fingers. I don't recall that the Animals tour was any different really in the way it was done to the Dark Side of the Moon or the Wish You Were Here tours, but it was a bit longer. We toured fairly consistently for 6 months with the Animals tour, and that was a big one for us. Roger's sensibilities in touring were far more delicate than mine personally. I always enjoyed touring, and I can't say as I felt the same way about touring in general, or that tour in particular, or that particular stadium gig. I remember it wasn't a hugely fun gig. I mean, that Montreal Olympic Stadium, we didn't play particularly brilliantly, and it was rather a poor note to finish a tour because it was the very last gig of that sort of 6 month of touring, and it was a kind of a shame to leave that long tour with a kind of a sour memory of that last gig. But it wasn't that great, but I can't say as I exactly did or do share Roger's sort of view on what happened to him on that tour and at that particular gig.
There is at least one memorable event with the Animals album with which they all agree. Here's Pink Floyd drummer Nick Mason with the actual story of the Animals cover photo.
Well, a decision was made to take this very artistic photograph of a large pig flying over Battersea Power Station. And so the large pig was built and inflated and taken down to Battersea. And there was a crew of riggers and inflators and everything else. And there was also a highly paid marksman whose job was to deflate the pig with a well-placed shot in the event of it escaping. We rigged the pig, and the pig was sent up, and the marksman stood there with his gun. But unfortunately, for various different reasons, I think the way the sky looked and the weather and everything else, we didn't actually get the shot we wanted that day. So the next morning, everyone reported for work, with the exception of the marksman.
He got stuck in traffic somewhere or overslept.
Anyway, by the time the marksman got there, the pig was at 20,000 feet and heading for Dover. And there were a lot of reports, some true, some less true, of warnings being given over the radio because the pig was actually on the flight path into Heathrow. And there are even stories that actual airliners did spot the pig, although I think that's unlikely. There was a police helicopter did give chase, but the pig was actually was climbing like an F-14 at the time. And it was some time later, I think, it reached a certain height and then the various safety valves opened and it began a gentle descent and landed in a field in Kent.
Now, since David Gilmour is a licensed pilot, I asked him to explain the proper procedure for reporting a giant flying pig to air traffic control.
Well, usually, when I spot a pig, I don't know what he would have said. He said, the mind boggles, really, doesn't it? I've never actually, I have to confess, I know it must seem strange, but when I've been flying around southern England, over Kent, over these parts of the outskirts of London, I have never actually seen a pig flying past. So I wouldn't really know how to deal with it.
I mean, who would you think you should report it to? Do you have a view on this? I mean, is it something to do with air traffic control or something to do with the farming community?
You just say, hands up, and if he doesn't put them up, you shoot them.
I mean, I think perhaps that's something we should explain. I don't think the pig would understand even if you did tell it to pull over.
From Pink Floyd's Animals, that's Pigs from February 1977. Up next in the Animal Zoo, David Gilmour comments on the lack of many of Dark Side of the Moon's hallmark instruments and arrangements on Animals. I'm Redbeard, in the studio for the 25th anniversary of Pink Floyd's Animals.
There are certain repairs that you want to make darn sure are done right the first time and come with a lifetime guarantee, like your Uncle Bob's pacemaker. Well, at Geico Auto Insurance, if you have an accident, we can guarantee your claim repair for as long as you own your car. We'll have you back on the road pronto. In fact, many claims are settled within 48 hours. Geico, 1-800-947-AUTO. That's 1-800-947-AUTO. Our customers like the way we handle claims, almost as much as they like saving money.
I may be pregnant, but my period's days away.
Tuesday,
Wednesday,
maybe.
Thursday,
Maybe.
Friday.
With First Response Early Result Pregnancy Test, she could have results up to 4 days sooner. Because based on product instructions, only First Response can be used 4 days sooner than any other at-home pregnancy test.
I want to know now.
First Response Early Result Pregnancy Test. Results 4 days sooner.
See doctor as recommended. 52% get results 4 days sooner. 86% 2 days sooner. Use as directed.
On the eve of the Second World War, Germany's Max Schmeling and America's Joe Louis waged battle. Their countries demanded heroes, They just wanted to be champions.
I'm not a Nazi. I'm just a fighter.
You can't win by decision tonight.
You could knock him out.
Stars Pictures is proud to present an original motion picture event, Joe and Max. Premieres March 9th during the Stars Free Preview Weekend.
Red, green, a 5-day Caribbean cruise.
These are just a few of the things you may now find inside a box of Crayola products.
A Crayola-sponsored art day for your class, a free birthday party.
Just play the Crayola Imagine It game, and you may win a family vacation to the Caribbean, or many other great prizes like
a year's supply of Crayola products.
And more.
See specially marked boxes of Crayola products or store displays for complete details. No purchase necessary. Game open to legal U.S. residents and ends 3/31/03 or while supplies last.
Welcome back in the studio for the 25th anniversary of Pink Floyd's Animals. I'm Redbeard. I wondered aloud to David Gilmour if Animals' intense muscular guitar that dominates throughout was a conscious effort to move away from the saxophone, keyboards, and girl chorus of the Dark Side of the Moon arrangements. Here's David Gilmour of Pink Floyd.
I mean, there are people who didn't think at the time maybe that we should do things that way, you know. And people who have a view of the way that we are or the way that we should be. And this is true today as it was then, that like I said before, rules are made to be broken, and we've never had any sacred idea about what we think we ought to be or what we ought to sound like. So anytime we feel like trying something else out, we'll just go and try it. And if some of the fans do or don't like it, it's not really particularly relevant, you know. Because that's not the way we do things. That's not why we do things. We do them for us first, and if the fans like it, they like it. You know, it was never as bad as poor old Bob Dylan's treatment at Newport when he first went on with a band. You know, and they accused him of selling out his folk roots and all that bullshit. But you know, we got a little bit of that sort of general vibe that you know, it's like other people start thinking that they possess something of you and they have a right to tell you how you ought to sound and the way you ought to be, but it just isn't sacred to me, and I don't think it ever was to us that it should be any one particular way. And if we want to chuck a saxophone in or get some girl singers or put an orchestra on or whatever we want to do, that's fine, you know, as long as it comes out sounding nice to us.
confused. Sometimes it seems to me as if I'm just being used. Cause that way gotta try and shake off this creeping malaise. If I don't stand my own ground, how can I find my way out of this maze? Deaf, dumb, and blind, you just keep on pretending.
That's Pink Floyd from the Animals album released 25 years ago with the song Dogs. Be careful where you step. I'm Redbeard, back in the studio after this.
In the 1800s, people making land claims had to wait so long for their paperwork to be processed, they were called squatters. Today, if you're left without a car because your insurance company hasn't processed your accident claim, you could be a squatter too. At Geico, we're there 24 hours a day to get your claim rolling the moment you call. Many claims are settled within 48 hours. Our customers like the way we handle claims almost as much as they like saving money. Geico, 1-800-947-AUTO. That's 1-800-947-AUTO.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
When I needed a home equity loan to remodel my kitchen, I scoured the country for the best loans. Well, actually, LendingTree.com did that for me. I filled out one simple form and got 4 offers back within hours. Okay, technically, LendingTree.com brought me the 4 offers, but when it came to choosing the loan, that was all me, baby.
When banks compete, you win at LendingTree.com. Equal housing opportunity. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Hello? Yeah, this is Sam down in Legal. I can't approve this March promotion until I reach a state of madness. Read me the details.
Score a $100,000 scholarship.
I'm excited.
Use your Sears card and you're automatically entered.
Slightly crazed.
2 grand prize winners also receive a trip for 4 to either the men's or women's college basketball championship.
Madness achieved.
Score a scholarship. Only at Sears. Where else?
No purchase necessary. Must be 18 or older to enter. Void where prohibited. See store for details. Ends 3/16/02. Scholarship payable over 10 years. America Online. Keyword Sears.
Stars, #1 in new hit movies, brings you the Stars free preview. Tune in tonight to see Nicolas Cage in The Family Man.
This isn't my house. Those aren't my kids.
We're working on a new deal now.
And Stars Pictures presents an original motion picture event, Joe and Max.
I'm not a Nazi. I'm just a fighter.
You can't win by decision tonight.
Gonna knock him out.
If you don't have Stars, you're missing out. Tune in to the Stars free preview tonight. Call 800 Super PAC for information. Availability may vary.
Hey, this is Redbeard in the studio, thanking Roger Waters, plus David Gilmour and Nick Mason of Pink Floyd for the 25th anniversary visit in the studio for Pink Floyd's Animals. In the Studio was written and produced by yours truly, Redbeard, at Upper Room Recording, Cedar Vale, Texas. Associate producer and engineer is Doug Hall. Transcription by Jane Carpenter. In the Studio theme by Andy Timmons. Check it out at www.andytimmons.com. You can email to In the Studio by writing redbeard@xmradio.com.